Happy day, wonderful people. I hope you're having a wonderful Sabbath day. Remember to keep it holy. And I just saw something weird. I know, like, I'm thinking about the words that are about to come out of my mouth. But so Scientology appears to be going mainstream now. Probably with the help of, everybody's favorite Scientologist, like literally. I think everybody loves this guy. I don't know if it's a spell or if he's just cool or what, but Tom Cruise. And yeah, like people are talking about Oblivion, like it's coming to fruition. But anyway, Minority Report. Anyway, supposedly his work is encoded. It's almost like he's a super soldier. Anyway. You okay?
Yep.
All right. Ouch. Yeah, I heard it crack. You walked into the wall, I think. Teenagers are an interesting lot. So apparently his movies are encoded, and Scientology is really good at producing whores. They have famous whores now. I don't think Kirstie Alley was a whore back then, but who knows? Maybe she was. John Travolta seems to be like a big fat whore. But the contemporary whores have really done a good job at bringing themselves, representatives of Scientology, forward. I think everybody knows they're in Scientology, Anyway, their work is wicked. We know them by their fruit. So the one played a whore. She basically represented the whores in the workforce that were like breaking apart marriages left and right in like the 50s and 60s and 70s. They normalized affairs and divorce mainstream. I think that was always going on secretly, but anyway. So she went from that whore role to normalizing rape by just putting it in our faces constantly and sexualizing it. So like she sexualized rape in that really disturbing Handmaid's series. And then Scientology brought in a secondary whore who I think American Eagle picked up and whored her out for the whole nation to see, billboard whore. So Scientology is really an interesting recent history. Then you go into its foundation. Go into the foundation. You go into L. Ron Hubbard and the Suicide Squad and all those freak demons back then, and it's just, you take it to a whole nother level with Moonchild, and people think Trump's the Moonchild. I don't think so. I think he's just, I think his father was probably Bavarian, Ashkenazi, Illuminati, fake Jew or something. But anyway, yeah, Scientology, I think it's going mainstream. I think that they're pushing the Xenu story. The alien warlord that captures our souls. Well, according to this guy that was just interviewed, our souls are being captured. I believe he said something about the moon is where they're putting our souls for now. And, I guess maybe their Star, what is it, Star Trek, Enterprise. Like, okay, so I'm getting off topic now so much. Just watch the video and just be aware that they're starting to push the alien narrative, the Scientology narrative. I shouldn't be surprised because Catholicism has been mainstream for such a long time. Tons of Catholics now, unfortunately, in America. And then you have, and you have Mormonism going mainstream, and they're going big now because they got their own TV series. You got like the Whore Wives TV series, and then you have, Erica Kirk, who's kind of helping to spread Mormonism. And it's just Mormonism. They think Lucifer and Jesus are brothers. Okay, so we just have to be really careful what we're listening to and what we're believing, and think about how Project Bluebeam and the Rapture and the alien invasion thing could easily play out from a belief in Scientology. Okay, anyway. And an Iran war update is first. Take care. You have a great day. Bye-bye. So Israel was hit again. I think it was more civilian casualties. Actually, I'm not sure if there were any casualties, so I shouldn't say that. But we are reaching the deadline, the supposed deadline that Trump said he gave Iran, even though Iran says there haven't actually been any negotiations. Sounds like Trump is lying about talking to them and trying to make a deal with them. So let's check this out real quick.
Right now, I do want to head out live over to Tel Aviv, the area there in central Israel, where we are hearing about some of the strikes that have taken place by Iran on residential areas. We do have Jonathan Hunt with Fox News, who is out there live for us. And Jonathan, I know there have been a lot of developments there out on the ground in Israel, smoke rising. Can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, so we've had a couple of alerts here in central Israel and in Tel Aviv itself this morning or over the last few hours. The first of them, we actually was pretty close to us here. We could hear the whistle of some of those cluster munitions as they drop. And those cluster munitions are particularly difficult for residents here because they are essentially a missile that is fired. They break up in the air above us. They release then something like 24 or even more bomblets, I guess is the best description for them, and those then rain down over a pretty wide neighborhood. In the first of those today, at least 4 people were injured, and then the second one happened off to the skyline to the left of us here. We saw a huge plume of smoke from that one, dark smoke. We thought at one point, given the amount of smoke that was coming up from that one, that it might have been an actual full missile that struck there. Turns out it was another cluster munition, and one of those bomblets had dropped straight onto a car there. The fuel tank of that car had exploded, and that's why we saw so much smoke rising from that one. A couple of people injured there, but it's just another example, Josh, of the ongoing terror that people throughout Israel live under right now, that you get these alerts throughout the day, throughout the night, northern Israel, central Israel, southern Israel, and these families have to pack up everything every time that they get those alerts and hear the sirens and get to bomb shelters. It is a tough way to live, I can tell you that, Josh.
And Jonathan, I did want to ask you, because something that a lot of people don't realize is that there are bomb shelters that are located in homes, in businesses there, because that is kind of a way of life for folks.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a way of life, has been a way of life for quite some time. You look at southern Israel in particular, they for years had rocket attacks coming out of Gaza. Northern Israel has for years had rocket attacks coming from Hezbollah in Lebanon across the border there. So it is something Israelis are used to, but this is a different level, this war, because Iran has these ballistic missiles which can travel much further, do much more damage. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Almost every building has a shelter of some sort, and on high-rise buildings, they've often got shelters on every floor of that building. For instance, the hotel that we stay at here in Tel Aviv has those shelters on every single floor of its structure. So it is just it is part of the way of life. And you hear tales of families who trying to get their kids, some decent sleep at night rather than having to wake them up 3-4 times during the night and move to the shelter. They've decided to spend the night in the shelter. They have the alerts on their phones, their kids don't, and they just hope that through that they can give their kids a decent night's sleep, some sense of normalcy. But clearly nothing is normal in these times of war, Josh.
Nothing is normal. And I wanted to ask you here, because we know from President Trump as well as Israeli leadership, it appears overall that Iran's military capabilities are lessening here. So are we seeing fewer of those alerts happening over the past several days than we saw maybe at the start of Operation Epic Fury, or does it seem to still be fairly consistent?
Well, I think you would say that, yes, there were a lot more missiles coming over in the first few days of this war. Having said that, as the people here in Israel began to mark the Jewish holiday of Passover in the last few days, there was a huge barrage launched here in central Israel in particular, but also in the north and the south, and that was clearly meant to mark the start of a very important Jewish holiday. That was one of the biggest barrages they had seen since the first few days. So, and yes, if you take the Trump administration at their word, and it does seem to have some concrete evidence behind it, clearly Iran's military capabilities have been diminished greatly. But at the same time, they keep a lot of these missiles underground in tunnels that have been dug over 10, 20 years. They move them out on mobile launchers. And we have seen CENTCOM and the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, put out videos of the destruction of those mobile launchers. But what you're seeing there is one mobile launcher taken out, another mobile launcher taken out. There are probably thousands of those mobile launchers that they have to identify. And if you can roll those out of a tunnel, launch your missiles, roll them straight back into the tunnel, it's going to take a very long time to take Iran down to zero missiles, if it is even possible at all. And you wouldn't have to go far to find a military analyst who will tell you that that is a fool's errand trying to take them down to zero. It will never be possible, certainly without putting a vast number of ground troops into Iran, Josh.
All right, Jonathan Hunt there at Fox News. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We definitely appreciate it as always.
Anytime, Josh.
And I want to pop this up once again on your screen. This is coming in from President Trump within the last hour, a deadline issued of 2 days to Iran. It says, quote, "Remember when I gave Iran 10 days to make a deal or open up the Hormuz Strait?
No.
Time is running out. 48 hours before all hell will rain down on them. Glory be to God, President Donald J. Trump."
I can't believe that he actually wrote "Glory be to God." I think he just signed his own death wish. Father God, whatever Trump has planned, please, thwart it.
Yeah. Way back, there was a galactic federation of planets ruled over by the evil Lord Xenu. Xenu thought the galaxy was overpopulated, so he rounded up countless aliens from all different planets, then had those aliens frozen. The frozen alien bodies were all loaded onto Xenu's galactic spaceships, which oddly looked like DC-8s, but with rocket engines. These spaceships then took the frozen alien bodies to our planet, Earth, which while there, he dropped the frozen bodies into the volcanoes of Hawaii. The aliens were no longer frozen, they were dead. However, the souls of these aliens lived on and rose up towards the sky. But the evil Lord Xenu was smart. He had prepared for this. Xenu didn't want their souls to return, so he had built giant soul catchers in the sky. These souls were then taken to a huge brainwashing facility that Lord Xenu had also built on Earth. Eventually, after Lord Xenu had released all of the severely brainwashed souls, they had found mankind and attached themselves to the bodies, being the leading reasons for all of our fears, confusion.
That's why we're all retarded. I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. Yeah, so I guess the plot twist is that they can possibly harvest our souls while we're still alive.
Dead, In particular, one of the most famous is an account that Robert Monroe, who founded the, Monroe Institute and so forth, that the CIA used to use sometimes as a place to conduct advanced remote viewing. Robert Monroe, in his second book, Far Journeys, I think from 1985, basically says that in the course of his astral projections, he discovered that we're living in a control system that is managed by entities who work for a demiurge that's harvesting us for what he called loosh. He said that we're in a loosh farm, that humans are being deliberately subjected to conditions that create extreme emotional states. Extreme suffering, misery, fear, terror, ecstasy, extreme desire, pathological impulses, and these are all being used to basically generate a form of energy that they can harvest from the human soul, including after death, where they basically juice souls for the loosh. Now, there was also a researcher called Carla Turner, who I believe was killed, even though she supposedly died of cancer at the age of 48. The CIA has something that mimics a very fast-acting cancer, and they've used this on a number of occasions to kill prominent people, I believe also including the Shah of Iran.
Really?
Yeah.
Who else?
Do you remember Peter Jennings did this special on UFOs? Do you remember that? In the night, whenever it was that he died, shortly before his death, he did this huge special on UFOs for which he had recorded like days and days worth of footage with all kinds of prominent whistleblowers. And it was supposed to air on primetime television.
Is that true?
With him as the narrator. Yeah, they aired it, but what they aired excluded 90% of the material.
I didn't know that. Peter Jennings did a UFO special, including a lot of whistleblowers.
Extensive.
I had no idea.
Like, it was supposed to be like a multi-part program that would air over weeks or something. And he records this thing, gets cancer, drops dead.
Really?
Like within a year of like this program airing.
I had no idea.
Okay.
I didn't know about any of this.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Peter,
So
I
I
mean,
think
he
that's
was like
another.
Walter Cronkite 2.0.
That's
sort
right.
of kid.
So that's another case of it.
What?
And so I think Carla Turner was killed by this. In any case, Carla Turner did interviews with a lot of experiencers, abductees, who reported the same kinds of things as Robert Monroe did in Far Journeys, where they said that we are in a control system that's being managed from out of a metallic sphere just beyond the Earth. And they describe the inside of this thing.
What?
I think, going back to our first conversation, what they're describing is the inside of the moon. That there is what we might call, using the Soviet language, a psychotronic control system, a kind of spectral technology inside of the moon, which is impinging on and manipulating humans in the afterlife state.
What?
And it's not omnipotent.
Yeah.
It's not a flawless system. So it's possible to assert your free will and self-determination in the face of this system, but it's very difficult. So a lot of people have had near-death experiences, for example. They describe being pulled toward this light. It's like they couldn't resist going into the light.
Yeah.
They tried in some cases, but it was almost as if it was an electromagnet, like pulling them into it.
Sure.
And then when they go into the light, one of the most common things that's described is that people are shown their dead relatives and religious authority figures, like Jesus. And, or like if you're a Hindu, you see Hindu gods, interestingly. I'll give you a terrifying case from a Hindu in a minute. So you're pulled into this light, and then they show you your dead relatives, and they show you Jesus and whatever. Well, here's the problem, Jesse, is that if you look at Dr. Ian Stevenson's extremely rigorous research on reincarnation that he did at the University of Virginia for decades on children's spontaneous memories of past lives, all the cases show that the average interval between death and reincarnation is something like, it could be anywhere from 6 months to 3 years maximum. It's usually not more than several years. So when you are having a near-death experience, and your grandmother, and let's say you're in your 60s, in your 60s, and you see your grandmother who died when you were in your 20s, that's bullshit. You are being shown an artificially generated simulacrum of your dead relatives to manipulate you by a psychotronic technology.
Oh, well, this is getting
By a
into...
psychotronic technology.
Well, you really think that?
Yes, I do.
Really?
And I say that as someone who was, at the bedside, at the deathbed of a couple of my relatives who were experiencing these things. When people are very close to death, they also see dead relatives come around their hospital beds. It's very commonly reported. And so one case was my great aunt, or I was there while she was like not describing to us, she was having conversations with dead relatives that, the other family members knew, oh, that's so-and-so, she's talking to so-and-so as if he's like in the hospital room. And the most striking case was with my own grandmother, my Persian grandmother, to whom I owe the fact that I fluently speak Persian, because both of my parents worked when I was growing up, and they would leave me with her during the days, and she hardly spoke any English. So I learned like Persian practically as my first language in New York. So I was very close to my grandmother. And when she was dying, this exact thing happened. She started talking to my dead grandfather. Now, my Persian grandfather died when my father was 4. Okay? That guy reincarnated 60, 70 years ago. So she's talking to something that's being projected into our mind psychotronically.
But how do you know it's being projected psychotronically and it's not just a function of her own old age and
Sure. I mean, that's the conventional skeptical response. I would say, based on what Robert Monroe described in terms of the terrain of the afterlife through his astral projections, which then other people at the Monroe Institute were able to replicate, and based on the kinds of accounts that, let's say, Carla Turner got from abductees of being taken to places that were not just like space alien bases. There were places where the soul was being handled as some kind of an informational matrix and or energy source.
John Lear would say that there's like a soul catcher on the moon, but he also was kind of crazy and would say a lot of stuff that, probably was BS.
I guess my point is we don't need to depend. I've heard that, by the way. I've heard him talk about it. My point is we don't need to depend on him. Other people have said this. And let me give you one more example of somebody who's described this is, God, I hope I don't get this name wrong. Scott Turner or Scott Trevor or Scott Turner was a leader of a team of remote viewers. And these are private sector remote viewers, I think, of the kind who offer corporate services and stuff like that, who did a remote viewing on the word moksha. Moksha. So what was in the envelope was moksha, the target they were blind to. Moksha means liberation in Sanskrit. It's like how you get out of the wheel of samsara. And so he does this session with his team. And long story short, he comes back with this horrific account that all of them do. Of course, they're all working the same target, blind to the same target, and they're all doing this independently. And then they compare notes. And they said that you can't achieve moksha because as you try to escape the earth, there's something that grabs you and bends you back toward the earth. Like if you're a ray of light, it's like it bends the light that's your soul back toward the earth, like a what do you call them?
A firmament?
A lensing effect. And he said it's originating from some celestial body near the earth, and that it is part of a vast machinery of energy extraction, which was set up in our solar system at the end of a war that devastated the solar system. He said that like millions of years ago, there were these horrendous people who wanted to establish this energy harvesting system here and wanted to exploit humanity for this purpose. And there was a rebellion against them, and the conflict was waged across the entire solar system. Now, this is interesting in terms of what we discussed regarding Mars in our first conversation and the apparent devastation of Mars in some kind of a nuclear war, according to Dr. Brandenburg. So Turner and his group said, Turner, Trevor, Scott, whatever, this remote viewer, it's going to be in my new book, Thanosis. But you can find it. Google remote viewing moksha. People were so disturbed by the video that the guy took it down. He has like all his other videos up, but he took this one down, but other people uploaded it to other sites. And so he says the rebels who wanted to like preserve human freedom and self-determination didn't want humans to be harvested and exploited this way. They lost the war. And ever since then, we've been inside basically this prison where we are spiritually manipulated and harvested for our energy.
When we originally described this site, it's a fence or a grid around a place. This acts as a barrier. It collects and traps people, things, or objects. This is actually an innocent planet that is being used in an unintended way. And this meters the flow and acts as a checkpoint and an access point for an external force. One viewer described it as similar to hocus pocus in a way of its energetics that the viewer wasn't familiar with. And it's occurring on a crowded planet. It's a deliberate function that acts as a cage. People have been dispersed here, and a form of perverted injustice is occurring. A third viewer described it as a large naturally formed object like a planet that acts as an animal pen. This is a refugee camp tucked away out of sight, and a magnetic force. It stirs, agitates, and it works in a cylindrical manner, like clockwork over a long expanse of time. In my session, my work described a planetary system that's extremely crowded and jammed. Ghostly voices are flooding into this place, and it's incredibly harrowing for them. It's a bone-chilling experience. As a viewer, when I remote viewed this, I had descriptions that it made me upset in the session. It elicited contempt for what was going on at the site. But the activity at the site was this concept of a net that's been spun, and it's an operation of catch and release on a grand scale. So there's a massive grid that exists around this planet, and it acts as a checkpoint, a waypoint or rest stop where souls are drained, and then that in turn energizes something else.
That's so depressing. I mean, is there any aspirational streak within that? Do you believe in God? Do you think
I believe in Prometheus. Okay. In other words, the reason that Prometheus has become such a central archetype to my philosophical project is because if you look at the structure of this myth, it encompasses all the major elements of most religious belief systems, but in a way that's empowering to humanity.
We're here because the British had a spoil of war in the 1980s from the Falklands. They had a brilliant new find called a sentient fluid, or a black goo.
Black goo.
Because it was black and it was goo.
Okay.
And it responded to electrical stimuli. They brought it back to England, brought it up to a much warmer temperature. It started to respond. Things went badly wrong in the labs.
So black goo is it's an intelligence?
It's a sentient fluid. They wanted to develop it as a weapon. That whole concept failed. The whole concept went wrong, and they dumped it in the sewers. So what it's doing now, it's going through the bacteria. It's going through all the living life forms. It's exploring everything.
Is it in me?
It's in you, and it's in everybody.
So it's coming out of here right now.
It's in our water supply.
It's in our taps. It's in
the air as particulates.
Is it dangerous?
It's not dangerous unless you are hostile to it. It's in a learning stage, and it's being conscious and it's communicated with people.
What's it communicating?
It's communicating that it's here to clean up our mess.
Wow. I feel like I'm going back down the rabbit hole.
Regardless, I think that this is 100% Scientology. This is L. Ron Hubbard based. It's just updated for 2026.
Who is Paula White?
Paula White is Trump's pastor.
Okay.
That's who he picked as his pastor.
And she's a pastor? That's her official position. She's a pastor.
I don't believe women can be pastors, but
right.
Who am I? I'm just a dumb mom in California.
So is she a Christian pastor, Paula
She's a
White?
Christian Zionist evangelical heretic, in my opinion.
Okay.
But yeah, she's Trump's, she runs the White House, the faith office, White House position. And she's on the Religious Liberty Commission with me and very involved in all things Bibi Netanyahu. And so I got a call from...
How would you rate her authority as a Christian leader?
I don't take her serious at all. I don't think she's a Christian leader. I think she's a crazy person, honestly. Yeah. I think she's a heretic.
I think for people who think you're throwing those terms around lightly or slandering her, I think it'd be worth going online and reading about her and watching videos of her demanding money from her congregation on film with some other Christian pastor in a foreign country. Clearly, she's got a complicated personal life and saying things that bear no resemblance at all to Christian doctrine. That I think it's fair what you're saying, I guess is my point.
Yeah. So I got a call from the White House, Mary Sproles, another Mary, and I looked her up.
From Presidential Personnel Office.
Yes, PPO office. Yeah. I got a call in August, shortly after that phone call with the other Mary. And I'll never forget it. I answered the phone and she's like, "Hi, Carrie. This is Mary Sproles calling from the White House PPO office. I'm calling to ask you for your resignation today."
When was this?
This was in August. Yeah. This was in August. A few weeks after. Yes, very scary. And I remember I had like a tear just come down, but I wasn't sad. It was like anger.
Had you gone to any meetings of the commission at this point?
Our first, we had a first hearing, briefly, like a brief hearing on kind of the history of religious freedom in America. But our first hearing, the most important hearing coming up, the little boy that had to read the book, was a few weeks later.
Okay, so this is before you even served out your duties.
Oh yeah, no, it was before the first official hearing.
She asked for your resignation.
She said, "I want your written resignation today." And I said, "Who are you?" I thought this was a joke. Who is this person? And she goes, "I am calling on behalf of the White House." I said, "Why would you ask me for my resignation? I just got on this commission. What did I do wrong?"
Boy, you are tough.
I was not going to go down without a fight because I knew.
Clearly.
I knew.
I'm just looking at your husband who's nodding. She's tough. Sorry, excuse me.
No,
good for you.
Yeah, I said, "I'm not resigning." And I don't know who asked you to have me resign. Was it the president? Because I think the president should ask me to resign if he wants me to resign. He appointed me, and only he can ask for my resignation. So I'm not resigning. So we got off the phone.
Wait, but on what grounds was she demanding your resignation?
She did not answer any questions. She was just told. It was like a puppet. She was like, "I got to just send the message." So I called her back.
So she said, "We're asking for your resignation," but she did not explain why.
No. She said, "It's just not working out." Yeah, literally. Now that it's coming back to me.
This was not a Tinder date. It's just not working out.
It's just not working out. And I'm going, this is serious. This is very serious.
Yeah.
So then I hung up and then I wanted to make sure it was a legit person. So I called right back and I said, "Hi, Mary." I said, "This is Carrie. I'm just curious, please. I know you don't want to give me information. I know you're just a messenger," because I didn't want to be mean to her.
Of course.
But I said, "Who is telling you to have me resign? Who have you talked to?" And I'll never forget it. She didn't want to say it, but she finally said it. She goes, "I've talked to Paula White and Dan Patrick and Brittany Baldwin," who Brittany Baldwin used to work for Ted Cruz. So it's all making sense now, what's going on. So this is a witch hunt. They're trying to actively remove me. And they know that the only way that I could be removed is if I resign or if I die or if the president removes me. So in my mind, I'm thinking, does the president know about this? Or is this just the Dan and Paula trying to out me on their own? I think they thought, oh, if we ask her to resign, she'll resign. But I didn't resign. I said, no, there's no reason to resign. You should resign, actually. Why are you asking me to resign? So she told me Dan Patrick, Paula. So immediately, imagine how boiling I was. So I tried to get in touch with Paula White. No response. I tried to get in touch with Dan. No response.
Did you call them or text them or?
The weirdest part about this commission, I honestly think it's so fake and gay because we didn't even have each other's like phone numbers, emails. Like I had to literally ask like, hey, can I get Paula White's email? So I actually called her daughter-in-law. Her name's Rachel. She's a pastor, young woman. And I said, hey, Rachel, I said, I just got this disturbing call. I need to talk to Paula immediately. And she's like, okay, let me try to get a hold of her. Paula never called me back.
What?
No, I waited for like a week and a half. It was.
Isn't she required to in the New Testament? If you have a conflict with a
Matthew
fellow
18.
Christian. Is it Matthew 18?
Matthew 18.
Man, you're good.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a requirement from Jesus.
Yeah.
You've got a problem.
Go directly to that person.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I did. And she did not want to call me back. And then her daughter-in-law, I got her on the phone, and her daughter-in-law said, yeah, I talked to my mom, and she said, don't worry about it. There's a lot of snakes in D.C. There's a lot of snakes in the White House. And I would just ignore it. And my mother-in-law loves you, Carrie. Don't worry about it. I think it's just one of the snakes in the White
House. But
House.
Paula White would not speak to you directly.
No. So then finally, after I was on pins and needles for a week and a half, wondering what's going on? Am I on this commission? I emailed everybody. I called Bishop Barron. I got him on the phone. I said, hey, did you hear that they tried to remove me? He goes, what? Why would they try to remove you? I said, I have no idea, other than I've been criticizing Israel and, talking about the genocide in Gaza. Sorry, I'm a pro-life Christian. I can't sit here while children are being starved and bombed. And he totally supported me. And he's like, this is insane. You would never be removed from that. Bishop Barron told me that. Talk to Ben Carson. Ben Carson's on the commission with me. Hey, Ben, did you hear about them trying to remove me from this commission? No, absolutely not. Ignore it. I've never heard of anything about this. Kelly Shackelford, same thing. I said, you're a religious liberty attorney for 35 years. Did I do something wrong? Am I not allowed to have my religious freedom while serving on this religious liberty commission? Or do I have to be a Zionist who supports a genocide? Is that the requirements of this commission? He said the same thing. I haven't heard a word. I literally talked to almost everyone on the commission. I talked to Cardinal Dolan in person. I said, they tried to get me off this commission, Cardinal. He goes, what? For what? I said, well, because I've been posting about Gaza. He goes, I just gave humanitarian relief to Gaza. So if they're going to kick you off, I guess they're going to kick me off too. Literally his words, Cardinal Dolan. They all supported me.
So at this point, you believed it was just Paula White,
yep.
the lieutenant. Why would the lieutenant governor of Texas be on this commission?
I think that he is a snake. I think him and Paula are together in this, and they wanted to get rid of any dissenting voice that goes against their Zionists.
But why was he on the commission?
I didn't even know who he was. I had no idea who he was, but I guess Trump appointed him as the chairman of this commission. So then I got a call. After I was on pins and needles, I finally got a call, and it was Dan and Paula. And I'll never forget, I literally remember
Dan
every
Patrick
word.
And Paula White.
Yes, they called me and they said, hi, Carrie, I know you've been worried this past couple weeks, but Dan started. And he goes, I just want to let you know we've been in meetings about your situation.
What situation?
Yeah, what situation that I'm posting about? God forbid, I criticize Israel. Can't do that while serving in this administration. And he said, I just want to let you know, Carrie, your job on this commission, I'll never forget this, Tucker. Your job on this commission is protect the president and his reputation. He said that to me, the first thing out of his mouth. I couldn't believe it. I go, what? I thought my job is protect religious freedom. I thought that's what he appointed me to do. And he goes, you've been saying things online, Carrie, and you really need to stay off social media. Do not use social media between now and the end of your term. And then Paula White chimed in and she said, yeah, Carrie, you know what? You really shouldn't be posting about replacement theology. You shouldn't be posting about that. And there's a lot of people that are saying that you're an anti-Semite, Carrie, by your posts. You're criticizing Zionism. You're criticizing Israel. And we have a problem with that. And then Dan chimed in again and he got loud. He got real loud. And he's like, Carrie, because I pushed back and I said, well, wait a second. I said, what am I posting that is so offensive to you? That's against the rules of this commission, because I didn't sign anything saying I wasn't going to use my social media. I speak out about things that I care about. I'm a religious person. I'm a Christian. And he said, you've been saying things that go against, I'll never forget this. He goes, you've been saying things that are not in alignment with the president and are not in alignment with Paula White and some of the other members on this commission. And that's when I knew that this commission was a fraud. It was pretend. It was not about religious freedom. It was about, you better be a Zionist, you better push our agenda, or you're off. And that was in August. So we ended the conversation. Dan got really upset because I said, I really do want to keep posting. I'm not going to not use my social media. Can't agree to that, Dan. And he goes, well, why don't you just, if you have any questions about Israel or Gaza, because Paula White chimed in and was like, I'm the expert in that. You're just
Paula White's an expert on Gaza?
Yeah, I'm the expert in that. I just got back from there and there's no kids starving there. It's all fake, Carrie. It's all pretend. Yeah. And so she said, if you
She's a Christian minister saying that?
Yeah.
Do you think that she, at any point in the course of a day, feels like, oof, I'm going to have to answer for this at some point?
No, I think she's just...
To deny the death of children in the name of Jesus is a pretty heavy thing to do.
It's pretty sick. It's pretty dark. And she said, I want you, if you have any questions about anything, if you want to post anything, you need to run it by me first. So now Paula White, an equal of mine on this commission, is now telling me that I have to get everything approved by her in order to post about my religious beliefs. Is that insane?
Yeah, it's making my heart beat fast.
Yeah.
Listening to this,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So that's the backstory.
Well, it's completely evil. And I'll just say, I know Paula White sort of. I know Dan Patrick very well. He's a lot more liberal than I am. He's quite liberal, but I always liked him. He's not stupid at all. And I'm shocked by this. I was shocked by it. It's so disgraceful.
Me too. I cried, actually. I cried to my husband. I cried to my kids. I couldn't believe this. I couldn't believe that this was happening in the United States of America, that we care more about protecting a foreign nation than we do our own people.
Did either one of them, so Dan is a self-described Christian, Paula White is some kind of Christian minister, I guess. I want to be clear, it doesn't look like Christianity to me, but I'm trying not to judge. But did either one of them explain why a requirement of the Christian faith is supporting the Netanyahu government? Do they explain the theology there? Because I don't understand it.
Yeah, no, they never explained it. They just said, you can't have your theology. You can't believe what you want. You have to submit to ours.
But their theology is that Christians are required as a matter of faith to support the government of Israel?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you have any
Those
idea?
who bless Israel will be blessed. It's exactly what Ted told you.
Yeah, I mean, he had no idea where in the Bible it was. Of course, that line is not actually in the Bible. It doesn't say that.
No.
But whatever, the leap between that, whatever that means, it does mean something, and the religious requirement to support the government of Israel, I mean, those are just like completely two different things.
No, they don't think they are.
Did Paula White or Dan Patrick explain where you were wrong on doctrine?
No, they just said, I cannot hold firm to replacement theology, which they don't know, Catholics, it's fulfillment theology. We believe that we are the fulfillment. It's not replace. They like to dig us and say, oh, you believe in replacement theology. No, we're the fulfillment. Christ is the fulfillment of Israel.
Well, that's what
so
it
we
says
are the new
in
people
the New
of
Testament.
God. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it says it like on every page.
Yeah.
But they're accusing you of believing in something called replacement theology. For people who don't follow this, and I'm kind of one of them, I don't fully understand what that means. What do they mean by that?
They believe that, so replacement theology, their claim is that the church has replaced Israel. So for 2,000 years, that's what all of the early church fathers have taught, that we are the new Israel, we're the spiritual Semites. They would literally be rolling in their graves if they thought that we were being told that 1948 Israel is some biblical prophecy fulfillment. I mean, that alone is insane. That they think that this political state of Israel that was created in 48, mostly by atheists, is some biblical prophecy being fulfilled. And I mean, you're aware of Darby and Schofield, and so this is the fruit of that, those rotten.
Is there any other
seeds.
place in America, I mean, in the world rather, where you have a big group of Christians who believe that 1948 Israel is a fulfillment of prophecy?
No. In fact, do you know, Tucker, that I asked my priest, who I had about 6 priests guiding me before this hearing, spiritually advising me before this hearing, because I wanted to make sure. I need to make sure that I know what I'm saying and that it's actually accurate with what the church teaches. And I'll never forget, he's from Spain. God bless him. He's so sweet. And I said, Father, do you know what Zionism is? He looked at me like I was an alien. And he's like, what's Zionism? I couldn't believe it. I said, you realize in America, that these people like Paula White, Dan Patrick, Ted Cruz, most of our politicians in government who have power, who are in the White House praying over the president, they're Zionists. They believe that 1948 Israel is a biblical prophecy fulfillment. He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, nobody's ever taught that. I said, I know. And now they're forcing it on me, a Catholic, on this commission. Yeah, it's really scary.
Well, and especially since we just, wound up in a war thanks to this. I mean, it's hard not to see this as all preparation for this war, which is resetting the world.
And they had to get rid of the only dissenter of that, of Zionism. They had to get rid of her on this commission before the war. It was within weeks.
That did occur to me watching this. Why is it so important to crush this woman? Like, okay, she's got views you disagree with. It's a religious liberty commission. You've got, are there Jews on it too? I assume.
One rabbi.
Yeah. So he's got different views. You would think he's Jewish, you're Christian. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to disagree.
I know.
But it's not okay to question the behavior of the secular nation state of Israel. So that tells you it's not really about religious liberty,
No,
right?
not at all.
It's about.
When we started this company, we promised that we would only partner with other companies.
Carrie, thank you for doing this. I've been watching you on the internet. I've never met you, but I'm grateful for your honesty and your bravery and the precision of what you say. You never, in the face of all this criticism, never got so mad that you revealed ugly sentiments, which I don't think you have. You just stuck right to the Christian case. So bless you for that.
Thank you.
How did you get involved in the President's Religious Liberty Commission? What is it, and how did you become a member of it?
Very good question. So I was Miss California in 2009. Donald Trump owned the Miss Universe, Miss USA organization. It was very controversial, but I dared to say on stage that I believe marriage is between one man and one woman.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember it. And they punished you for it.
Huge controversy. That was really before anybody was canceled. So I always tell people I was one of the first to be canceled.
The crazy thing is the majority of Californians agreed with you because they voted.
100%.
They voted.
Yeah.
In a referendum, pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
Prop 8, which was then invalidated by a judge because democracy is fake. But
Exactly.
you were saying what most of your fellow Californians believed.
100%. Yeah. And I was just standing on my principles, which is what I'm doing now. So Donald Trump loved me. He said, Carrie, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. I remember one day it was in his office and he's like, Carrie, you have the it factor. And I'm like, what is that? I was 21 years old. I'm like, what does that mean? And he's like, you just have it. He's like, you dared to speak the truth knowing what it would cost you. And I think he really respected me for that. And so at 21, I became this, conservative darling, I guess you could say, and dared to stand up for my faith. And I doubled down. They told me, go on Matt Lauer and apologize for what you said. You must apologize.
Did they really tell you that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the pageant people said, go on and apologize. And I turned my phone off. I went on Matt Lauer and he's like, all right, Carrie, let's do a redo. How would you answer the question? I said, I have no regrets. I would literally...
So you're getting a lecture on sexual ethics from Matt Lauer?
Yeah.
Okay.
The irony of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I said, I'd rather be biblically correct than politically correct. And from there, it was like, I was on every news station every day for the 4 months. It was nonstop. It was to the point of like harassment. Like my 90-year-old grandmother was being harassed. It was insane. But I stood firm and I did not waver.
And your position, just to restate all these years later, was, I believe marriage is between a man and a woman.
That was my answer.
That's
and
it.
I said, no offense to anyone out there. This is the way I was raised. This is what I believe. Marriage is between one man and one woman. And I got second place and I got dragged through the mud. It was horrible. And the president loved me. And he said, Carrie, what do you want to do? He's like, do you want to be on Dancing with the Stars? Do you want to be on Fox News? I did like a little tryout on the morning show at Fox with Roger Ailes in New York. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to wake up at 3 a.m.
No, you don't.
And I said, you know what, Mr. President? I said, all I want to do is get married, be a mom. I had met Kyle and I just said, I just want to go on with my life. But I do want to write a book because nobody can take my story from me. And so he signed off on it. Thank God he did, because it was amazing that I was able to share my story.
She was obviously all
And I just
about
kept in touch with
special
him all these
treatment
years. And so,
until
I would
things
defend him when
started
they
to
were calling him a
change for
sexist,
her
saying
and
he was
Trump
going
started to
backstage
go
and looking
full
at the girls
Zionist.
and Miss USA and the,
And now she's complaining.
changing rooms. And I would just constantly be like, nope, that's not the guy. Like, you're painting him as this sexist, misogynist, racist.
So that's why I don't fully trust her 100%, but God said don't put your trust in man. Put your trust and faith in God. So as I do believe Paula White is doing these things that she's being accused of doing, as I do believe she is a heretic, and not from this interview because of the research I've done in the past. But I also believe that this woman here might have her own agenda. That being said, just be wary and always remember to put your trust in God only. Okay, here is America's #1 heretic. Let's see what she has to say during this celebration of Ishtar.
And we're leaving a few out, but it's only because we don't see you. Let us pray. Father, you tell us in the book of Esther that the Persians, the Iranians, were wanting to kill every Jew, woman, child, and do it all in one day. But you raised up.
And Mr. President, no one has paid the price like you have paid the price. It almost cost you your life. You were betrayed and arrested and falsely accused. It's a familiar pattern that our Lord and Savior showed us. But it didn't end there for him, and it didn't end there for you. God always had a plan. On the third day, he rose, he defeated evil, he conquered death, hell, and the grave. And because he rose, we all know that we can rise. And sir, because of his resurrection, you rose up. Because he was victorious, you were victorious. And I believe that the Lord said to tell you this. Because of his victory, you will be victorious in all you put your hand to.
Yeah, okay, whatever. And what's with that dress?
Your guy's gonna fall to the floor when he comes.
He defeated evil. He conquered death, hell, and the grave.